Hello everybody and welcome to BK Aviation, and where we will be having a little bit of a tutorial for the Airbus A320-Neo MCDU and getting everything that we need entered into it so we can have a completely active flight plan ready to go. And we are currently sitting in the FlyByWire A32NX mod for the A320neo, and that does make a difference. The default A320 flight management computer is an absolute joke. So I am currently starting up this aircraft here, ready for my flight that will be debuting tomorrow in the successor of the Major League Baseball Cities Tour, which we finished up previously. And so this flight, the actual flight part that would be coming after this tutorial, will be published tomorrow afternoon. But we are going to get this tutorial started, so we are gonna end up focusing on the actual MCDU itself. Now, what the heck is the MCDU? Well, it is the multifunction control and display unit. Every aircraft has one of these. Some people call it one thing, some people call it another. I feel like mostly Airbus calls it the MCDU, and Boeing aircraft usually end up calling it either the FMC or the FMS. But this is how it looks like right now. We are the A320-200 using the LEAP 1A26. That is the new engine option, so we are basically the A320neo. The AC, which is the navigational database, is currently outdated in the actual Microsoft Flight Simulator itself. Can I? No. The newest update, which would have actually happened by the time that you are watching this, is coming up on this upcoming Tuesday, July 27th. And whenever there's an update in the sim, it usually updates the navigational data as well. So I can assume that by the time everybody is watching this, this would have been up to date. But it is currently just a few days prior to the big sim update, which is also the Xbox debut for this sim as well. So right now is saying GPS primary is lost. That is because I'm currently waiting for my IRS tour line. I am very fresh into firing up this aircraft, so I'm gonna hit this CLR button, that is the clear button, and that will erase what was down there. And this whole area where it said GPS not found or whatever, that is called the scratch pad. Anything you punch in from these buttons will fill up that area down low called the scratch pad. So you're just going to hit the clear button and clear all of that out. This whole screen right here is basically useless for what we want. So we are going to want to go to the init page. Now there are only, when I am flying, I only use 3 of these pages: the init, perf, and FPLM. That's flight plan. This is for aircraft performance, and this is just initial settings. So I'm gonna click init, and this is always gonna be basically the first thing we fill out. But I have a flight plan saved and ready to go. We'll be using SimBrief to fill out our flight plan for this flight. from this point forward is based off the assumption that everybody knows how to create a flight plan in SimBrief. Reading flight plan is one thing, but this is based off the assumption that you can type in where you want to go, where you're starting, where you're ending, hit submit, and it will just throw you a bunch of stuff. So here is my current active flight plan in SimBrief, and this is what we will be entering into our MCDU for this tutorial. And there's a lot of stuff going on. Starting up in the upper left hand corner, ACA 0724, that is my flight number. ACA is the ICAO code for Air Canada Airlines. And then 724 is my flight number. I am doing this currently on July 24th. So that is why there it is right there, July 24th, 2021. Over here, this is our route. We are starting at Kilo Delta Echo November, KDEN, or Denver International. And we are flying to Charlie Yankee Zulu, or Lester B. Pearson International, which is in Toronto. So this is just basic flight information, and that is giving a sneak peek on what I am doing for my debuting flight tomorrow. We are flying from Denver to Toronto on this flight. So this KDEN dash CYYZ is the first step in filling out the initial page in the MCDU. So back here, that is going to go right in here. Now if you notice, the formatting and the GPS primary, that means my IRS is currently aligned. That's usually a process that takes about 7 to 8 minutes, and through the course of me talking about it, it is complete, so I'm going to clear that message out of Sketchpad. Okay, so the formatting here is important. So as you notice, it says from/to, so that is our origin/destination, and even down here the slash is in the orange, which pretty much anything that is orange needs to be filled out. So basically what that is telling us is that we need to keep that format with what we are entering into the Sketchpad. And this is important here. It is also important in a couple of other spots while we are doing this. So we are starting in Kilo Delta Echo November, and I am going to input that slash as part of the formatting, and we are going to Charlie Yankee Zulu, KDEN to CYYZ, and whatever is in the Sketchpad, whenever I hit the corresponding button to the side, see button, and then it kind of points to this region. Every button has its own little descriptive name, but I have never really found those descriptive names to be helpful. So I'm going to hit this one, and then this will pop up. Not to be frightened here, this, I believe, I never use it, I believe this is where we would put in any sort of backup airports. But we're just going to leave that as none and hit return, and then the Denver to Toronto ICAO codes are inputted where we want them to be, and they have to be the ICAO codes. I don't believe if you use the 3-letter code it would work. It's got to be the 4 letters for the airports. And then for the flight number, as we saw in the page earlier, it is ACA 724. And that will go right there. Up next is the cost index. And the cost index is right here. Basically what the cost index is it is a number determined by the airline which will help influence fuel usage. The lower the cost index, the less fuel ends up being used on a flight. The higher the cost index, the less fuel efficiently minded the flight is going to be. We have 46, which is basically the middle of the road. And right after cost index, we will be putting in our cruising altitude, which is right here. Not that, but right here. As you can see, 039, that is our flight level. And a flight level is just the overall altitude in feet divided by 100. So this would be a cruising altitude of 39,000 feet. But the flight level is what we'll be using to enter. You can use either, and the flight computer will know you mean flight level 390. So we're going to do cost index 46, flight level 390. So we'll do cost index 46 into the sketch pad and hit the MCDU button here right next to cost index, and that will input the cost index in. And now there's a couple things here. This is kind of goes against what I was saying for this. I don't know if because there's a space here you kind of have to disregard, but when you put in the cruising altitude and just input the cruising altitude like 390, it will auto-fill the temp. This is basically the outside air temperature at that altitude. So 390, boom, it auto-fills the negative 52 degrees. Okay, now a couple more things left in the initialization page. So we have these arrows here. That means there is another page that we have to work with. So we're going to move on over. So we have the ZFW/ZFWCG. This is short for Zulu. I forget what the F means, but basically this is fuel. Zulu fuel weight. So basically the weight of the aircraft without any fuel loaded. Now the nice thing here about the A32NX is that all you have to do is click on that. It will auto tell you, because these numbers don't change. The weight of the aircraft without any fuel is going to be the weight of the aircraft without any fuel no matter what. Unless you like take out all the seats or something, but that doesn't happen in the simulator. So then it's click it again and then it'll go up there. Black fuel. Now if you go into SimBrief, it gives you, after you fill out the flight plan and then you execute the flight plan, it gives you a black fuel. And this is basically just all of this stuff added together. So we want 8,039 metric tons of fuel. I've already got that fueled into the aircraft, and so I just need to see what kind of number I can put in. So I'm going to actually take a look at what my aircraft is telling me. It says 8020. So this is kilograms. I said metric tons. That's what we are going to be putting in here, but the amount of fuel we put into the aircraft is in kilograms. Take away or move the decimal 3 places to the left, and you get the weight in metric tons. Now I'm going to just completely round this down to 8,000 kilograms, so that would be 8.0 metric tons of fuel. And then that will auto-fill all of this good stuff up here. And then that is done with. We just need to click and enter the 0 fuel weight, and then put in the black fuel there. And then we are back to where we started. Now the IRS init page is this. And I honestly don't think I have ever done this after it has aligned by itself. I think it is set. If you do this before, there's a thing down here that says, I don't know, you just click on it and then you hit accept, and then it tells you where you want to be. But I think now that my IRS has completely aligned, I'm ready to go. So I wish I had gotten to this before that and I could have showed you. But basically, once your GPS primary that page is irrelevant, and now we need to go to wind/temp, and this is another one where the formatting matters. We will have a wind direction / wind speed / altitude. And on the altitude, I always use whatever our cruising altitude is, because that is what I believe the sim brief page is trying to tell me. So let's take a look at our wind, and this is here, the average wind of the flight. First number is degrees, second number is wind speed, so wind is basically coming in due west at 270 degrees, and it'll be averaging at 29 knots. So back here to the MCDU, 270/029, and our altitude, we will be using our flight level of 390. Click it in there, boom, wind is done. And that is it. We don't have to worry about ground temperature. All that is good, all that is good. And we are done with the initialization page. Getting this stuff done with is important because especially the fuel. Getting the fuel in and all this auto-filled stuff, because that will kind of go towards when we get to the flight plan or FPLN button. That is for the flight plan. As you can see right now, it is currently just Denver to Toronto. If we were to look at the map right now, it is just a straight line direct between these two airports. Even up here, it is just telling us we have 1,139 nautical miles to go direct to Toronto. That is not what we want. We want an actual flight plan, so we are going to take care of that. Okay. First thing first is we need to take care of our departure. Since we are departing from Denver, I'm going to click on the button next to KDen, and that will bring up here. A lot of stuff is grayed out. We only have 2 items here that are not grayed out. Next waypoint and departure. If this were in the middle of the flight plan, and I just want to put in my next waypoint let me just type in a bunch of random stuff here. Let's say that's a waypoint. I would enter it into the scratch pad, hit the button next to next waypoint, and then that is what would be entered into the next waypoint of the flight plan. We don't want that right now, because this right now is our departure. So we click on departure, and all of this jazz comes up. What this is telling us is the runway number, the runway direction, and the runway length. So let's take a look at our flight plan and see which runway we are using. So we are going to scroll down just a little bit, and this is our routing. So looking first, KDen/08, that is telling us we are departing Denver on runway 08. So there's runway 08, hit the button next to runway 08. And our runway 08 is filled in. We still have a couple more. We have SID and we have trans. That is our standard instrument departure and our transitioning point away from the standard instrument of departures. So the standard instrument of departure, or the SID, is also listed on the flight plan if it has one. Not every single flight plan has a SID, especially at smaller airports. You may end up just taking off of a particular runway and then ending up going direct to the first waypoint in your flight plan, but in this case we do have a SID. And our SID here is EONS 8. So EONS 8, and then we are going to Wyndham right after that. So here we just need to hit the up button. You might think you want to go down, but what these buttons are telling you is which way these options are shifted. So if I hit the up button, Bailey will end up going one spot up. So hit up, Bailey's now gone. Chewy, which is right here, is now here, etc. So Cooley, I hit up again, and Cooley's is going to be up here. There it is. Cooley's goes up 1. Denver, Eons 8. That is the one we want, so I'm going to click on Eons 8. There we go, Eons 8 there, and now transition currently is none, but we do want to use a transition on this one. These are just the SIDs, so no transition. Insert. So after you hit insert, all of the waypoints between the departure airport through the end of the SID are all right here, and the reason why it didn't have a transition or it said none is that this standard instrument of departure only has one option of where to exit that departure. Some might fork one way or another, and then it gets to the waypoint which bears the name of the SID, and you might go north or you might go south, and depending upon which way you go, the transitioning waypoint might be different. But for this particular one, Eons 8, it's always going to be Eons to Wyndham. So that is why we did not have a transition point to pick with. So, first, another thing is this USR is garbage. Whenever I input my departure, I'll hit clear so that the CLR is in the scratch pad, and then I will hit the button next to USR, which will remove it. It is stupid, it is dumb, and it doesn't exist in real life, so it is gone. So from our departure of Denver on runway 08, our first waypoint will be Royal. From there it'll be Shobo, and then Lupton, Marine, Eons, and then Wyndham. And then after Wyndham, we are currently out of the standard instrument departure, and we have to start working on our actual flight plan. So, we have Wyndham, and then the very next thing here is DCT. Now you see DCT 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times on this flight plan, and that's one thing that I really struggled with when I was starting to do these flight plans, is kind of discerning what the hell a waypoint is and what the hell not a waypoint is, because there's also these things called airways, and there are not any airways on this flight plan. I kind of wish there were so I could show you. But what the DCT is telling you is that we are going directly from this waypoint. DCT is short for the word direct, so we are going directly from this waypoint to this waypoint. On the computer, once you hit the Wyndham waypoint, the next one on the list is going to be this one. After you hit this one, the next one on the list is going to be this one. Once you hit this one, the next on the list is going to be this one, etc. Now these waypoints, some have 3 letters, some have 5 letters, some have a combination of letters and numbers. Those are all the waypoints. And I've seen waypoint with only 2 letters before. But if it's any set of numbers or letters between 2 DCTs, you can rest assured that that is a waypoint that you want. If, let's say, there is, let's say, Papa Whiskey Echo, and then a single letter followed by 3 numbers, and then India Romeo Kilo, the single number followed by 3 letters, that would be an airway. And again, I really wish I had an airway on this route, because then it'd be a nice little example, but there isn't one. But right now we are at Wyndham. I need to get our next waypoint in, which is Kilo Delta 63 Alpha. So I'm going to click on our last one, and then we only have 2 options here. Airways, which we aren't going to use. Kilo Delta 63 Alpha. And then everything will be yellow with the insert button here. When it's yellow, it's just temporarily inputted into the flight plan. You want to hit insert, and that will completely insert it into the flight plan. And now we're going to click on that. So this is where we are now. Kilo Delta 63 Alpha. We're going direct to Papa Whiskey Echo. So we're going to put in Papa Whiskey Echo. Now when a waypoint is 3 letters like this, that is usually signifying that it is a VOR, which is kind of an old school navigational device used back in the day before GPS. And basically most airplanes will still use VORs, and it will draw direct lines to certain VORs in the nearest airport and whatnot. And they all have 3-letter designations. And pretty much every single airport will have its own VOR. So it's also navigational waypoints these days, so we're gonna need to input that and insert. There we go, Papa Whiskey Echo. So we're gonna click on that, get our next waypoint, which will be IRK, India Romeo Kilo, insert. Now oftentimes when you just do the 3 letters, it will pop up a whole bunch of different options. We will actually see that in a second. It's either this one or the next one. It'll be the OBK, I believe it does, but we will do so we are just in IRK. We're gonna go direct to Kilo Golf 69 Kilo. Kilo Golf 69 Kilo, nice. Insert. And I'm actually going to start hitting down because it'll be quicker to get through to the bottom of the flight plan than it is to just go up a bunch of times through all these waypoints just to get to where you want to go. Next one will be Oscar Bravo Kilo. Oscar Bravo Kilo. Now I'm at next waypoint and it will give me 2 options. And sometimes there might be even more than that, but Oscar Bravo Kilo is 769 nautical miles away from where I am. Or the other option is Oscar Bravo Kilo Hotel, which is 6,650 nautical miles, almost completely out of the range of this aircraft. I'm guessing this is some sort of airport code. So I hit Oscar Bravo Kilo, and it is just making sure that I didn't actually mean Oscar Bravo Kilo Hotel. But nope, I want that one. That is my waypoint, so I'm going to click on that and insert, and then that will add in the Oscar Bravo Kilo. Money, MONEE, MONEE, insert. So that is the last waypoint on our list before we get to our standard instrument arrival, or star. Now I could click on the little CYYZ right here, or you can just click on, because the destination will always be here at the bottom. So I'm going to click on that, click on arrival, because everything else is grayed out. Click on arrival, and now we can start entering basically the exact same layout as the departure. So we have our approach runway, which is the runway we'll be landing on, the VIA, which is the last waypoint as you enter your approach, the star, and then the transition. So our star here coming into Toronto will be Nubu 4, and we will be landing on runway 15 left. So 15 left on Nubu 4. So we gotta go down, find 15 left. There it is. Find Nubu 4. Ungox, that is the VIA that we want. So we're gonna click on that. and then after you click on the via, it auto-fills the transition. Now that is not our actual transition. We need to find it. We won't, because our transition is money. Now there's a glitch in the sim where once you click on this transition, it will reset all of this. It's really dumb, but once you kind of figure out what's going on, it's fine. So I'm gonna click on money, everything gets reset. 1.5 left. Nuber 4. Ungox is there, and now the correct transition is inputted, so I don't need to find it again. I'm just going to insert, and then there it is. Flight plan from start to finish is in. And we can actually verify this a little bit. So if we set our dial to plan mode. So here's our flight plan here. In relation to where we are now, we can actually cycle through, and it will move us each waypoint through. So Eons, and then Wyndham. That is the end of our departure. And then we'll do that. All the direct waypoints that we entered, until we get to money, which is the start of our arrival. And then we are arriving into Toronto, Nuber, Ikbat, Alani, Dula, Dolpa, and then we'll eventually get to Ongox, which is our via waypoint that we selected. And then we are approaching our runway of 15 left in Toronto. So back to where we started. So when I first started doing this, just being able to figure out what's a waypoint, what's an airway, what the DCT means, that just was completely foreign to me. So hopefully, I wish I had an airway in this route. Let's find a random one here. Airways. If there was an airway, we would be entering the airway into this via. So it would be like Juliet 523 would be an airway. It's not gonna let me because that's not probably not even a real airway, and it would have to actually start from that waypoint. And if there's a mismatch, it's gonna know that, so I can't BS my way through that one. But if it was correct, the airway would pop up here, and then this box would illuminate, and then you would put whatever the waypoint after the airway would be. Now, one thing that's different between using airways or direct, if you go direct, so if you go direct from PWE to IRK, IRK is going to be the waypoint right after. But if there was let's say there was an airway connecting these two waypoints, there could be a series of waypoints between these two that the system would automatically fill in. So that is really what the airways are. You do the start at the airway waypoint, the end of the airway waypoint, and if there are certain waypoints in between, it automatically fills those in. For direct, that does not exist. It's just, this is the waypoint you go to. The computer enters a straight line connecting those two waypoints, and that is how all of the waypoints are in this particular flight. So, one last thing, and that is perf. This is our performance page. The takeoff performance, there's also climb, cruise, destination, and then approach, and other stuff. For now, I'd never really used the climb, cruise, and descend one. The default inputs are usually good enough for me. So, first, I always input my flaps slash trim, which is this one right here, and this is another one where the formatting is important. So we will be using flaps 1 on our takeoff, slash, since the slash is in there, and then a THS, which stands for trim horizontal stabilizer. So this is just telling us what angle our horizontal stabilizer is, and we're just gonna be, oops, and it can be up or down from the standard. We are just gonna leave it at standard, so we are gonna do down 0.0. I believe up 0.0 will be sufficient as well. Let's see. Yep. So if I were to go 1/DN for down 0.0, it'll be the exact same thing, except it just says DN instead of up. Next thing is flex takeoff temperature. That is just a designated thrust amount, and it is something that is not simulated on this aircraft by fly-by-wire, so I would just put 55 degrees. And it does absolutely nothing for the sim, it just fills in the empty boxes here. And then we have our takeoff speeds, our V1 speed, our rotational speed, and our V2 speed. These, you just click on the box, and it will auto-fill. Rotate, V2 speed, and then that is that. All that is filled, all that we need is filled out, and then we are back to the flight plan. And that is it. We had our initial page, we had our flight plan page, we had our performance page. And those are the 3 main pages that you'll need to fill out entering a flight plan between your 2 destinations. And that is where I'll end it here. I will be continuing on with the flight plan, which will end up being a separate video than this one, which will be tomorrow, and that will be the start of a new series on the channel. Hopefully you learned a thing or two. Hopefully I made some sense. I just been trying to think of areas where I was confused with entering flight plans on the Airbus aircraft, and tried to tackle those confusions in this video. And remember that this is only for the Airbus flight computer. Boeing is a completely different animal, and if you try to take what you learned here and use it with the Boeing aircraft, you're gonna have a bad time. It's gonna be a really bad time. So this is just the Airbus A320-Neo with the FlyByWire A32NX mod flight management computer, or the multi-unit and display computer in Microsoft Flight Simulator. And hopefully you guys will be sticking around for the actual flight. And until then, we will see you next time.